CEO Paul Shapiro of the Better Meat Company. I'm going to bring him on right away. Well, thanks for coming back with me. You've done so much work in this space, but you really did start in the animal activist space, I'll say, not the business space, which is where you are now. And I'm wondering, you've had such a transition, although you've stayed with animals, you've had kind of a transition in your professional life. I'm wondering what you wish you knew 10 years ago that you know now. And if you want to make that 5 years, you can.
Well, many things, in fact, but just as a brief conclusion, I'll say this. I used to believe that it was enough merely to point out how poorly animals are treated, or how bad for the environment what we're doing is, or even something is bad for your health. But that's not what motivates most people's food decisions. And the reality is that people don't make their food decisions most of the time relating to animal welfare or the environment, or really even their health. They make their food decisions, as you have pointed out time and again, Elizabeth, on taste, price, and convenience. And so I have spent a good amount of time, in my view, basically making arguments that are not that compelling to people. They may be compelling to people like you and me, but they're not compelling to most people. And we have to accept the reality. We have to play the cards as they're dealt. And so I look back at every category of animal usage that has ended, and virtually every single time a category of animal usage has ended, it's not been because of humane sentiment. It's been because it was rendered obsolete by a new technology. We no longer exploit carrier pigeons, not because we cared about them, but because the telegraph was invented. We no longer use horses for labor because cars were invented and tractors were invented. We don't hunt whales anymore because we don't need whale oil, because kerosene and later electricity was invented. We don't really use quill pens anymore that were live plucked from geese's bodies because fountain pens were invented. And the list goes on and on. We're not hunting down fireflies anymore, not because we cared about fireflies, but because luciferase was synthesized. So many categories of animal usage that were actually ended. Now, I know there's some people sitting there saying, hey, some people still use horses, some people are still whaling. Yes, I know, but it's a tiny fraction of what it once was. Those industries have largely gone by the wayside. And I can't think of a single example ever of any category of animal usage that ended because people cared about the animals. Sadly, can you think of one? I can't think of a single one. Whereas I just named about half a dozen categories of animal exploitation that actually ended because it was rendered obsolete by a new technology. And so what I wish I would have known earlier is that, really, if you want to move fast and you want to make a difference, rather than just making arguments about the ethics of what we're doing, actually start doing what people care most about, which is basically creating things that are more efficient, more cost effective, and better and superior, just like digital photos displace print photography, just like streaming displace DVDs. We need to create the edible equivalents of streaming and digital photos, and do that in a way that renders our current horrible treatment of animals totally obsolete.
Yeah. And I'm looking to, because I do care about animals, I'm looking to displace animals, not just from the food supply system, but, I'm hoping that cellular agriculture can displace the hunting of extinguished animals, endangered animals for medicinal purposes in Asia. And there's all these other markets that are smaller markets but exist and take their toll on animals. And I'm hoping it can address those as well. So, but you're 100% right. It's never for the animals. It's always about business, and efficiency always wins. And this is what I love about working in this field. I feel bad for the rest of the world. They just, particularly this year, 2020, it was negative information every day for an entire year for the majority of people, unless you were working in the plant-based space. And then you had good news practically every day. So, it's every day is about innovation and better efficiency and making moves forward. And I do believe I don't need to convince people. I don't need to say, but your health, but animals. The bottom line is this is going to save you money, and it's a much more efficient way.